From the studios of Staten Island Community Television, you're watching In the Bleachers, the TV show for the world's most passionate sports fans. And hello, everyone. I'm Patrick Mahomes' new agent, also known as Jamie Hickson. And the guy chuckling on the phone is...
The hottest, baddest, sexiest man on cable access TV, yours truly, Hector Bosa. That's right, the predictions were true. I am always right, and everybody's always wrong except for Jaden, because he's normally right, too, because he's Mr. Information. I ask the questions, majority of the time, he gets the answers. So, let me ask you a question, and you tell me what the answers are. You ready?
Go ahead.
In baseball, has there been any major trades besides the Derek Cole trade and the Mets manager? Has there been any rumors from any other team?
Well, Starling Marte got traded by Pittsburgh over to Arizona. And the more the Diamondbacks tinker with their roster, the more they're starting to look like a real contender for that National League West title right now. What's that?
Derek Jeter's doing a good job.
You mean as the Marlins owner?
Yes, as the Marlins owner too. Is he doing a good job?
He's in a tough spot. He's in a really tough spot because he's got a franchise that just cannot seem to win any games. They've got some decent young players, but the young players can't seem to find any way out of this long slump that they've been.
And they're in a tough spot, too, because they don't gain the amount of people so they can keep the people and then spend the money. Mm-hmm. And the owners don't want to spend the money either. I think that was that the franchise that was going to go half to play here and half to the Expos?
No, you're thinking of Tampa.
Oh, Tampa. I mean, for God's sakes, if you have to do that to generate, I think that's the most ridiculous thing. If you can't generate people, and this is why I don't understand when it comes to the owners and the president of the baseball league. Mm-hmm. If you're not generating any money, and that team is always in last place, shouldn't you step in and say, wait a minute, something's wrong here? Like what they should do with...
I'm not really sure what baseball can do. I mean, their hands are tied with this one, both the Marlins and the Rays. The only thing the Rays could do is follow through on playing parts of their home games up in Montreal. I'm curious to see what kind of fan support they're going to get over in Montreal. Because when the Blue Jays played their home games during the preseason in Montreal, they drew 45,000 fans, and they did great. Does anybody think that the Tampa Bay Rays are going to get any support in Montreal? I don't think so. The problem is they're in a market that does not support baseball. The entire state of Florida. Florida is a football state first. They love the University of Miami and Florida State and the University of Florida. And to a lesser extent, they love their Jaguars and their Buccaneers and the Dolphins as well. This is not baseball country.
But here's the thing. When they did this, they actually did a study. The owners did the study, and they said, oh, wait a minute. We actually can generate money because there's actually interest in it. Now all of a sudden you're saying that, oh no, someone made a mistake? Or was it just the beginning of it?
The mistake was signing off on having two teams in the state of Florida in the first place. Let me tell you, Miami, when it comes to the sports demographic, they're extremely lukewarm. Unless the Dolphins and the Heat and the Panthers, and to a lesser extent the Marlins, are in contention, they're not interested. The same thing goes with the Rays. Although the other stumbling block with the Rays is they're playing in a really horrific-looking stadium, Tropicana Field, that's in St. Petersburg, a really bad part of St. Petersburg that not a lot of fans want to make their way through. Plus, they have to cross a bridge from Tampa to St. Pete just to get to the ballpark. And there's usually a lot of traffic on that highway.
Well, that's the thing I'm trying to say is that in the beginning, they did all these tests saying, oh, yeah, it's going to work, it's going to work, it's going to work. And then all of a sudden it doesn't work. So I don't understand why that's happening. You know, that's
It's like I
ridiculous.
said, it's the demographic. The demographic is just not there for baseball. It never was.
Because in the beginning, it was, like I said, it was supposed to be, they did the study on it, it was supposed to be fine. It was supposed to be fine, and everything was supposed to be fine, Jim and dandy. And
I
then
mean, they're
all
doing
of a
well
sudden-
with spring training in places like Port St. Lucie and Tampa and Dunedin and Vero Beach and other parts, Jupiter also, and other parts of the state. But these, they're all playing in significantly smaller stadiums and attracting this group of fans that really don't have that much to go on to try and find leisure activity.
Right.
We're dealing with
Exactly.
Miami and Tampa St. Pete, two very large metropolises.
Exactly. Now, the Yankees haven't made a big rumble lately, except
Not
for
since
the
Garrett Cole,
trade.
no.
No, but now next year you have Stanton maybe leaving. Do you keep him? I mean, who do you keep next year? Because
This is
has
up to
he really done
him.
anything? Has he really done anything since he's been with the team?
His first year with the Yankees, he had a very solid season. I mean, it was nothing like his 59 home run season, but he still had a very, very solid year with the Yanks in 2018. 2019 was when he was really brittle and couldn't stay off the injured list. This year is going to be really critical for him. If he can't stay off of the injured list, then the Yankees are going to have a major problem.
Yeah, you know, and that's the problem. And that's the problem. And
What's going on over there?
there's a rumble in the jungle over here, but don't worry about it. It's just, you know where I am. But at this
The
point
kitchen?
in time, no, I'm not. No kitchen. No, for God's sake, I'm at TSI. But hold on a second.
I see. Well, since Hector has me on hold for a few seconds, I'd figure I'd let you know about what happened last night. Super Bowl 54 took place, and the Chiefs wound up beating the 49ers. Halftime entertainment was
I
okay.
wouldn't call whomever, but here's the thing. Have the Mets improved? Have the Yankees may lose half their team next year?
Mm-hmm. The Yankees, I'll tell you right now, are much better
Thank
than
you
the
very
Mets,
much. I appreciate it.
roster-wise,
It
is
takes dollars.
concerned.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. But here's the thing. Have the Mets done anything? I mean, anything?
How
besides
about
getting real?
How about Michael Wacha and Rick Porcello improving their pitching
Okay.
staff? I mean,
Yeah.
it's not going to make up for losing Zach Wheeler, but getting two proven pitchers like those, I would say, is quite the find
Well, that's
that they
the
made.
thing. You said it. How you doing? You said it right. They have to prove themselves because last year they didn't fare too well.
Well, Wacha was on the injured list for a brief time, but he has proven himself very, very well. He's pitched in a World Series already. He's shown that he can be an ace of a staff on the Cardinals. Rick Porcello has bounced around with two different teams already, the Red Sox and the Tigers. Porcello's already been a Cy Young Award winner. He's been a 20-game winner. He's also won a championship with the Sox. So naturally, these guys are going to be able to add quite a bit to the staff that the Mets have now. I mean, you put those two in there along with DeGrom and Syndergaard and Marcus Stroman and Steven Matz. That's a good six-man rotation that the Mets could use right there.
Yeah, that is true. So going back to the majors in general, has there been any major moves going around? Did they trade that the kid from Boston?
Mookie Betts?
That the Mets wanted?
Supposedly, the Dodgers and the Padres are the two teams that have lined up to try and cut a deal for him. They're saying it's not a matter of if he's going to be traded, it's when.
And the guy from the Pirates, too.
Starling Marte, he wound up getting traded to Arizona. And let me tell you,
Now,
Arizona's got themselves a really tough team.
let me ask you, now with all the teams pretty much set for spring training, I know this is a wild prediction, but who's got the best team right now? Who's the top three or top four teams right now in each league?
Oh, I say the Yankees are the top team in the American League. I think Cleveland is going to be able to make a bit of a statement, even in spite of the fact that they traded Corey Kluber. I think Cleveland is going to make a real statement. Minnesota is going to be dangerous. I wouldn't count out Houston yet. Houston, by the way, now has Dusty Baker as their manager.
Oh, Houston got Dusty Baker.
Houston has Dusty Baker as their manager, and they still have Justin Verlander as their ace. And they also have Jose Altuve, George Springer, and a whole cast of characters in their batting order. Houston's going to be very, very dangerous this season. Oakland's going to be dangerous. I still think that Boston, even in spite of their manager change, is going to be a problem. Tampa is going to get by with pitching. That is a good 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 teams that could challenge for that American League pennant this season.
Because you have, especially Houston. Now they're going to watch Houston like crazy now, and they're going to try to figure out, will there be any cheating this time? And why did all of a sudden those players come out and say, yeah, we cheated? They admitted that they cheated. Something's going on there.
Yeah, they're going to be under the microscope this season.
And they should have, me personally, if I know that they cheated, I'm sorry, but it's like everything else in the world. If you have one bad apple or two bad apples, the whole team's got to suffer.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole team should not suffer, but that's the way the world works. So they should have not given them, they should take back the World Series and give it to the Dodgers and whoever else because if they cheated, they got caught in the cookie jar.
Major League Baseball has made it clear they're not taking any of the titles
away. I know. But in general, so the Rangers, Islanders, and Devils, who do you think's got the best chance of making the playoffs?
The Islanders. Right now, let's see, if I'm not mistaken, I think they're in 6th or 7th place in the East. The Rangers have a lot of issues. Number one, they have a goaltending controversy. There's this thing going between Henrik Lundqvist and the Russian kid, who has acquitted himself very well in the few starts that he's made. Plus, there's the matter of some of the other younger players that have been riding the Bridgeport shuffle between here and Connecticut. So
right.
It's going to be really interesting to see what the Rangers can do for the last 32 games of the year. They're 9 points out of that last playoff spot, and that's a tall order enough as it is to try and overcome to get that last spot. The Devils are horrible. I
Oh,
mean,
really?
aside from Nico Hischier and Jack Hughes playing solid hockey this season, the Devils have had major, major problems on defense and with their goaltending. The Devils right now, I would say, are probably the second to third worst team in the entire league. And I mentioned the Rangers earlier. They're playing the Dallas Stars right now, and the Rangers just took the lead. It's 1-0 in the first period.
No major hirings and no major firings in hockey either. That you know of?
There have been some firings. I need to look up exactly who lost their job recently in order to give you a clue.
Because I can tell you that much. You know, sometimes you wonder. For instance, the Jets coach, right?
Mm-hmm.
Switching from hockey until you find. But the Jets coach, I'm still racking my head. You got a really good running back in Le'Veon Bell. You don't want to use him because you got a problem with him, and you got one of the best running backs in the league, and you don't want to use him.
His problem is he did not like the fact that he signed for all of this money after sitting out one whole season.
They had a cap. They just could afford it. But my point is, the coach, who cares what the coach thinks at this point in time? Again, he's got a damn good running back. He runs for 1,000 yards. He could have helped your quarterback in certain situations, as you know. Mm-hmm. Because as you saw in the Super Bowl game, yesterday, which was would you say was it a defensive game or a more offensive oriented game, the Super Bowl?
I would say that it's a combination of both because for one, the Niners, they looked outstanding defensively for 3.5 quarters.
Yes.
But then,
yes.
and also they wound up making Patrick Mahomes II look really bad for about 3.5 quarters. He committed 2 turnovers, one of which was not even his fault. But then these last 7.5 minutes of the game, Mahomes was able to just go with a no huddle, and suddenly the 49ers started to get a little bit too comfortable, playing very soft. I think they might have used zone defense that latter part of the game. And the next thing we know, Mahomes makes this outstanding throw for 40 yards, which leads to their touchdown, which cut it to 20-17. And then the next thing we know, the Chiefs forced the 49ers into a 3-and-out, and the next thing they know, they wind up getting the ball back, and Mahomes throws the game-winning touchdown, and he winds up being named the most valuable player.
Yeah, because the way it was looking, it looked like the 49ers had it in the bag, the way they were playing. I'm not saying that both teams played bad, but, you've got the 49ers, they're saying, oh, we got better defense and so forth. Now, here's the question that sometimes is hard to answer,
mm-hmm.
because you got a fantastic quarterback, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have a team that has a great defense, let's say. But when you lose, was it because your defense was off that day, or was it because that quarterback was so good, and then you have fans going, "Oh, our defense sucked that day. They didn't play like they normally play."
It's a combination of things. It could be the defense playing tremendously. For example, last night the Chiefs were the ones that played superb defense in the fourth quarter. I mean, think about it. They came away with 21 fourth quarter points, whereas the 49ers just suddenly stopped getting the ball over to George Kittle, and also they stopped going to the running game. That's another reason why the 49ers wound up losing this game. They suddenly stopped running the ball.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So that's what I mean. But if you're saying that your defense is so great, shouldn't that's the hardest question to ask because you're prepping up your team saying, "Oh, my defense is great, my defense is great," but when you have a great quarterback and he breaks down your defense, or he just happens to get in there, then you say, well, was it the quarterback that was really great, or was it that the defense sucked that day? That's my point. Because you have people that say, oh, they weren't playing the defense that they normally play. Oh, they weren't doing this, and oh, they weren't doing that. Mm-hmm. There's so much. Was there any controversy? Because
not really.
Except for that one play, I think, where he stepped out of bounds, but they said it was a touchdown.
Yeah, I saw the whole thing over and over again. I think he got the nose of the football past the pylon just as soon as he stepped out of bounds. I mean, they keep in mind you have to have conclusive evidence of whether there's a touchdown or not. And looking at this, I think he got the ball past the pylon and grazed it past the goal line. So I think that call stood, and it did stand, and it should have stood.
Well, at least you won't have people suing like they tried to do last year for stress.
You mean like those Saints
and for mental
fans?
Problems, yeah.
They're still bitching and moaning about that.
Hey, I mean, but they have. I mean, the problem is that you can't go backwards in time to fix it. But what do you try to do to rectify it? And there's no way of rectifying that situation because the team is the one that got screwed because they could have made it to the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem. Do you stop and try to, if that ever happens again, do you restart the game? Do you say, oh, well, it's a human error and that's it?
Well,
and just continue on? I mean, what are you doing? What do you think the NFL should do in situations like that? Just like I said before with baseball.
You know, if the NFL really wanted to get this right, they would have someone. Actually, they would have a set of 16 people watch the game, and then instead of having these flags that the coaches throw to protest every call, why not just have that official that's watching the game from Park Avenue? Because that's where the NFL's main office is. Their home office is Park Avenue. Why not just have a guy or a girl that's watching the game contact the referee on either a pager or a beeper, or better yet, get him on a phone and tell them that there's going to be a replay because of they didn't know if a particular play was called correctly. That's what they should do, but they're not going to do that.
Now that you've said that, would it just be for the playoffs or the Super Bowl?
This would be for regular season and playoffs, including Super Bowl.
Okay.
Now, if they really wanted to experiment with this, they should try this during the preseason. Have 16 people watch all 16 games, and then you either page or beep the referee and tell them you want to review a call instead of waiting for these referees to get a red flag from a coach. Because by the time the offense scrambles to the line and they get a playoff, the coach isn't going to have a chance to throw that flag.
So what did, I mean, like I was talking about, the coaches being fired from the NFL, from the hockey, but and going to the Jets coach that should have been fired, but they saved his ass. The player saved his ass.
Hey, I'm happy with the way the Jets finished the season, going 6-2.
As a Giant.
Yeah, unlike the Giants, who finished with a 4-12 dud and wound up getting their teeth kicked in what, half their losses this season. I mean, when you think about it, some of the losses
They didn't
that
give
they
him. Like I said before.
some of the losses that they were in, they didn't even give the effort.
I didn't think they gave Eli Manning a chance. They just gave him 3. As I said before, and I'll say it again, that coach did not want Eli Manning.
He said that he was fond of Eli Manning.
Yeah. If you hear the way he talked about him, he wanted his quarterback. He wanted the young quarterback in there. He didn't want Eli Manning.
Oh, what's done is done. Eli
want
retired. Daniel Jones is now the guy, and the Giants can move on. Daniel Jones is
the thing.
Daniel Jones is
You
the
ready?
guy now.
And the coach that wanted him, the coach that wanted Daniel Jones, is not there no more. He got picked up by another team, though, I think,
Yeah,
as
he
a
did.
coordinator.
Yeah.
But my point is that here you got a guy the same way now, because this is similar. This is similar to what I have to say, which is the Jets running back, Le'Veon Bell. Coach didn't want him because, as you heard, it's up to the GM. It's up to the GM. It's up to the GM. You don't. I mean, even if you got to fake it to make it, you got to say, "Hey, listen. He's gonna come to work. I have no idea what's gonna happen, but he's gonna work. He's gonna work when we have practice. We're gonna work with him. He's on the team. He's our man right now. But don't make it seem. I mean, he flat out just said he basically doesn't want him for whatever reason. I mean, you have him.
It's
you might
money.
as well use them.
The reason is money.
It don't matter, Jamie. You got to remember
Because
something.
he's making a lot of money 1 year after sitting out a whole season. Quite frankly, I think there's a little bit of jealousy on Adam Gase's part.
I have no idea what MCAT is.
What's
But
that?
here's the deal. It doesn't matter whether the coach likes it or not. It was the GM that made the deal. Okay? I may not like somebody that you signed. But if I have to work with him, I have to work with him. Plain and simple English. And second of all, they had the cap to sign him. They had the cap to sign him. And they still have more cap. They're under the salary cap. Believe it or not. If you look at the salary cap, they're under the salary cap. That's why they signed him. And the GM was the one that signed him. The coach didn't want him. But there's similarities.
Well, I hate to tell you this, but Adam Gase is stuck with Le'Veon Bell. So there's going to have to be a way for him to play him. And just to give you an idea, Le'Veon Bell had about between 230 and 240 carries this past season.
He had 800 yards.
Yeah, well, let me look
And he
up
could
his
have made
numbers.
1,000. He could have made 1,000. He could have made 1,000 yards. It's just
Yes,
that,
he could have.
And also, they need a secondary quarterback. If Jones goes down again, they need a second quarterback real bad. Should Tom Brady be the Jets quarterback?
No. Don't even think about it. He is not coming to the Jets. Seriously, get that out of your head. Tom Brady is not leaving. He's not going anywhere. He is going to be a Patriot. He is only a New England Patriot. All he's ever known is the New England Patriots. He even spoke to Jim Gray on Westwood One radio and said he's been talking to the Patriots. He won't say what he's been talking to them about, but it's painfully obvious he wants to return to the Patriots.
He wants to retire as a Patriot, too. Right.
Or maybe he wants to retire as a Patriot. Who knows? And that'll only debunk his desire to want to play until he's 45.
Do you
But after
think,
the year that he had,
Mhm.
I'm not too sure about that. I just saw his stats for this past season. Did you know that out of the 16 games that he had this year, he had 6 where he did not throw one single touchdown?
he didn't have one single touchdown in the entire league? I mean, in the
He
entire.
did not have one single touchdown in 6 games playing for the Patriots this season. And there were another 4 to 6 games, where he threw either 1 or 2 touchdowns. His productivity went down badly. So either they decided to go with a different game plan and run the ball more, or it could be that Brady's time could be drawing closer to retiring.
Or also, they just didn't have the players. Maybe they just didn't have the players because Gronkowski is a major player. You didn't have some major players on that team.
Well, aside from not having Rob Gronkowski, who retired himself, he had Julian Edelman, who's a more than capable receiver. But other than that, he did not have one single guy that he trusted to throw the ball to.
And that's the thing. You have to have trust in the players.
And for the record, Le'Veon Bell carried 245 times for 789 yards. And he scored only 3 touchdowns. And he caught 66 passes for a total of 461 yards. So that means he touched the ball 311 times this season. So it's not like he wasn't getting any work. The work was there. He just was not productive.
I don't think they gave him they didn't, I don't, like I said, I don't think when you don't want to use someone and you want to make them look bad, you don't give them the ball. Because I think if you would have gave him the ball more, I think he would have done more. Because like I said, the guy, according to what I read, he's normally 1,000-yarder. And he had 800 yards for the season. So that being said, if you have 800 yards per the season, that means your coach, either you don't want to use him or you're not using him properly. And even if you don't like him, you know he's doing something good for your team, and you still don't want, you're so stubborn that you don't want to use him because you want your backup quarterback, which they don't have, by the way.
Nope.
The Jets do not have a backup quarterback.
Not a real one.
Exactly. So, do the Jets draft a quarterback?
No.
Do the Giants draft a quarterback?
No. The Giants are not going to draft a quarterback 1 year after drafting Daniel Jones. Do you know how much? You know how much that's going to do to the kid? That is going to shatter his confidence, thinking that someone's going to be watching over his shoulders, that some rookie is going to be watching over the shoulder of a second-year guy. The same thing with Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold has had 2 years, and believe it or not, Darnold has shown moments where he can be a really good player. Daniel Jones has a 400-yard passing game and 5 touchdowns on his resume. And he's already recorded 2 come-from-behind victories. Daniel Jones is not going anywhere. If the Giants are going to get a backup quarterback, it needs to be a veteran. It has to be a veteran. The question is, who should the Giants go after that's a really solid veteran, someone who's actually proven himself in years past?
Hey, and speaking of football, next week, the XFL.
That's right. They start on Saturday.
And don't forget, I think next year is the Women's Football League.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be fun to watch, too.
Yep.
That's going to be fun to watch because they had the Bikini Football League, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And Tom Brady's daughter was just as good.
Right.
She can throw the ball.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there were some. So I'm wondering if those players, where are they going to get these players from? That's one thing. Where are they getting all these women football players? And I'm sure there's leagues around and all that. Two, the NFL is probably going to support them, like the way the NBA is supporting.
That would be
the
good
women's
public
basketball
relations for them if they were to support this women's league.
Yeah, the NBA is supporting the women's league, so I'm sure the NFL is supporting the women's league too.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm wondering how like everyone else, how the caliber is going to be, how it's going to be, and the XFL. It's not going to be like the first time. They tuned it up immensely.
Mm-hmm.
But why would you? Is there so that means from what month we on? We're in February, right? January, towards the end of January, going to February.
Mm-hmm.
There really isn't nothing going on in between except for hockey and basketball, right?
Except hockey and basketball, and also, I think starting next week is when pitchers and catchers report, and then after that, the regular position players report, and then they start playing preseason games in Florida and Arizona.
So I'm wondering. I'm sure the XFL is not going to be very long. It's going to be short.
In all likelihood, yeah.
And I heard the pay was not the greatest.
Well, can you be surprised? I mean, they're not necessarily bringing in a really great cast of characters.
And third, going back to something that nobody really talks about anymore, and that's Kaepernick.
Yeah.
Will he go to the XFL?
He's too good for the XFL. He only wants to go to the NFL. This isn't like Johnny Manziel. Johnny Manziel swallowed his pride and went to the old Alliance of American Football, and he was okay. Now let's see if he finds himself a spot on somebody's roster this time. Speaking of the XFL, I have the list of teams that are going to be playing this season.
Cool.
Of course, New York has a team. They're called the Guardians, not to be confused with the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
There's also the Dallas Renegades, the DC Defenders, the Houston Roughnecks, the Los Angeles Wildcats, the St. Louis Battlehawks, the Seattle Dragons, and the Tampa Bay Vipers.
Do they have the players listed too?
They should have players listed as well. Let's see what we have here. We could go to teams. Let's see. For example, the New York Guardians. Here's their roster. Let's see who on the New York Guardians. Interesting. Kevin Gilbride, who was once an assistant coach with the Giants, he is the Guardians head coach. And I also see that the former New Orleans Saints wide receiver, Joe Horn, is on the New York roster.
As a player or as a coach?
As a player. He's playing wide receiver. There's also, basically it's a hodgepodge of guys that we've never even heard of. Only Joe Horn is on that roster.
So basically it's people that didn't make it to the NFL, probably secondaries, former college players, former Canadian football players probably.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you probably make more money in the Canadian Football League. But if you're shown in the American Football League, it's just like the Generals. You
Yep.
know, Herschel Walker came out of there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of players came out of that league.
Herschel Walker, Jim Kelly, Steve Young, the late Reggie White also.
Exactly. So maybe this is a start just to see if they can get to the NFL.
Exactly right.
You know, but all in all, I mean, it's not going to be like the way they had it last year. I mean, the first time around, because it was.
Here's another guy with NFL connections that's on a XFL roster. Landry Jones, the quarterback. He's playing for the team in Dallas, and Bob Stoops, who was the former coach at Oklahoma, is now the head coach of the Dallas Renegades.
Wow, that's something. That's something.
And let's see, the Houston Roughnecks.
Does it say how many weeks they're playing?
Let me check out their schedule. I'm going to XFL.com in case you're wondering.
Yeah.
Let's see. They're going to play a schedule over 10 weeks of regular season action, and then they start the playoffs April 18th, and then the championship game is April 26th. And for the record, television coverage will be on ABC, Fox Sports 1, and ESPN, and ESPN2.
And you know who did a good job for them that they don't have when they first did the XFL? JR.
Good old JR, that's right.
Yeah, Jim Ross.
He was a really good play-by-play guy for them.
Exactly.
He has play-by-play experience from before. He used to broadcast University of Oklahoma games.
Yeah, and they'll probably use, what's his name? Not Byron Saxon, the coach. What's his
Jonathan
name?
Coachman?
Yeah, Jonathan Coachman will probably be.
Now that would be a good idea since he's back with the parent company.
You know, so and they used to use him, so they don't. I mean, they haven't set up any broadcasters for this. Did they? Have they?
They do have a broadcast team. It's just a matter of who's going to be calling these games.
Who do they have? Are they well known or not wrestling related? Because I know Mario Ronaldo. He calls fantastic UFC, boxing. I mean, he's a really damn good announcer. He can do it all.
Unfortunately, they have not shown who the broadcast teams are going to be, but
oh no,
I do have a look at the a look at the rules that they're going to have. For example, they're supposed to have a shorter play clock.
Okay.
And this time the kicker is going to kick off from the 30-yard line. And any kicks that go out of bounds are going to be a kickoff out of bounds penalty, which goes to, instead of the 40-yard line like in the NFL, it'll be the 45-yard line. And any touchbacks after punts, place the ball at the 35-yard line.
How's the point system? Did they tell you the point system where to be?
Score. Let's see about the scoring over here. I think it's pretty much the same way as in the NFL. Oh, here it is. The point after touchdown. They can actually attempt either 1, 2, or even 3 points. And they're not gonna kick. They're just gonna run a simple play. It's gonna be either a running play or a passing play. And it's gonna be either 1, 2, or 3 points. That is really interesting.
How are they gonna decide that though?
The teams can decide whether they want to have 1 point or 2 points or 3 points. Think about this. If they decide, for example, if they're down, let's say they're down 10 points, a touchdown would cut it to 4 points, and then they could actually go for 3 instead of 2 and try and cut it down to a 1-point deficit.
So there's not going to be any punting to get points.
There won't be any place kicking. There will be punts though, but there won't be any place kicking. This is really interesting. I think I'm going to check this out. Oh, and there's also overtime.
So is it going to be the first person that scores, or two teams got to touch? Because I believe that both teams should touch their ball, or give it 5 or 10 minutes.
I think they're going to do a regular coin toss, but then it says here each successful overtime score is worth 2 points, and that overtime consists of 5 rounds staged as if it were an NHL shootout or a Major League Soccer penalty kick.
Right.
This is weird. And each round is going to have 1 offensive play per team. For example, one team is going to run either a running play or a passing play, and then the next team sends their offense onto the field, and then they run a play, and on and on and on. That's really weird right there.
Is that confusing, or is that...
Yeah, it does sound a little confusing.
Did they take some of the NFL rules and some college rules and then put them together, you think?
I mean, they're using a couple of NFL rules, but I think for the most part, they're making up their own quirky rules as they go along.
To make it more interesting.
Yeah, to make it a lot more interesting. I really like the idea of going for either 1, 2, or 3 points after every touchdown. I like that idea. And the best part is they're not going to decide games with field goals. They can decide them by having the quarterback have the ball in his hands and determining what the outcome is going to be.
Are there going to be any ties? Or there are no ties? Somebody's got to win.
My guess is that they will. My guess is that they're going to go without ties here. And that's something that the NFL should really think about. They really should think about getting rid of the ties in this game because it's cost a lot of teams playoff spots in the past.
Exactly. You know, the ties are terrible. And the teams themselves should touch the ball. They should give it the way the basketball, have 10 minutes, have 2 teams touch it, and whoever, not whoever scores the first point, but whoever is ahead.
Yeah.
After the time limit, that's who's done. That's who wins. Because, you can always throw the Hail Mary pass, and you never know, and you can always have the kick do something. But do you think that the XFL is going to be more interesting than the NFL?
It's definitely going to be more interesting than the NFL. I think a lot of the rules that they have put together is really going to make things somewhat intriguing for whatever fans watch either on television or at the stadium, because whatever questions they might have about the scoring system, they're going to want to know a little bit more. And the next thing you know, they're going to suggest that they adopt these rules into the NFL.
If you think, but kickers will be out of a job.
I hate to tell you this, Hector, but when was the last time you ever found a kicker that made the Hall of Fame? You know who's the only kicker to make the Hall of Fame?
John Landetta.
You're close. Sean Landetta did have a nice career, But there's only been one place kicker and one punter that's made the Hall of Fame. Jan Stenerud made the Hall of Fame as a place kicker, and Ray Guy made the Hall of Fame as a punter. There's a strong possibility that Adam Vinatieri is going to be the next place kicker to make the Hall of Fame as soon as he retires.
What team and how? What team was Ray? I think, wasn't Ray Guy on the Jets?
What's that?
Wasn't Ray Guy on the Jets or the Giants?
He was a Raider.
Oh, he's a Raider. That's what I remember him from. Yeah, right.
Yep. And Jan Stenerud kicked for the Chiefs, the Packers, and the Vikings.
Did they say who's going to be the announcers?
Nope.
Are they going to use probably the regular announcers that they normally use?
I mean, they could probably use regular announcers, but I'll tell you this. One guy who I think they should consider to be an announcer is Gus Johnson. Gus Johnson is fantastic at calling football.
Yeah.
They call him the excitable one for a reason, because he makes football and basketball so exciting.
Yeah. and Mario Ronaldo is also good at what he does.
Who's that?
I'm wondering, Mario Ronaldo, he does the NXT, and he does boxing, and he also does UFC.
Mm-hmm.
He calls UFC and boxing, and so he's very good.
Mm-hmm.
And just like Jim Ross, he was good when he was announcing the game.
Mm-hmm.
But at least they're not doing some of the quirky things that they did before when they first tried the XFL, because they tried to integrate wrestling and the XFL at the same time. That way both parties can have a good time.
Well, one thing that the NFL plucked from the old XFL was the sliding robotic camera that they have, which flies over the heads of people during every game.
Right.
That's one thing that they picked, which was, I think, very, very innovative.
So I'm sure there's going to be some innovation.
Mm-hmm.
But, how excited can you be when you don't really know the players? Unless you're dying to play, unless you're one of those people that you need to have football all the time. And when they tried to do that, it failed. Because
if you're a diehard NFL fan, if you're a diehard NFL fan, you could see little people playing the game, and you'll be excited for the game.
Well, let's see, because I miss He Hate Me.
Tell you what, he had a pretty productive career, though. It wasn't long, but he had a pretty solid career.
Yeah, but I just like the fact that they were able to use names like that. I'm sure they're not going to do it this time around.
No, they're all going to use their real names.
But it was just fun. They were just trying to make it fun. But all in all, the NFL has nothing to worry about.
Oh, not even. The NFL is a cash cow. They've been a cash cow for years.
And
so I don't feel that there's anybody out there, to be honest with you, that's going to challenge them.
Did the right team win this year?
Oh yeah, the right team definitely won this year. When you think about it, the Chiefs
not
not only
50
did
years.
What's that?
Or it took them 25 years.
It took them 50 years to win their second title.
50 years, and I heard the weather.
And already there are people predicting that the Chiefs might be the favorites to win next season.
What do you think?
They definitely could, because not only do they have the superstar quarterback that could get them to the next level, they have a really dangerous tight end that he could get the ball to that could probably set them up for long runs and also for long drives. Now, if they were to get a really solid defense Not to say that they didn't have it last night. Last night, I mean, they were outstanding in the fourth quarter. But if they could get a couple of name players on that defense, they're going to be deadly.
Who is the next football franchise that hasn't won in a very long time?
Take your pick.
The Cleveland Browns, right, would be the next.
The Browns, the Bills, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Arizona Cardinals.
Do the Jets fit in all this?
Yeah, the Jets have had over 50 years since their last title.
Hey, speaking of that, the New York Knicks won.
Big deal.
They won.
So what?
Give them their props.
No, I'm not giving them anything.
They won a game. They beat a good team, and that's all there is. When you lose, you got to give them their bad times. You got to tell them they lost because they did things badly. But when they win, you got to give them their props too because they beat a damn good
don't
team.
care.
But
to be honest with you, I really couldn't care less. The Brooklyn Nets are another team that I really could care less about right now because they have sputtered so badly, and now Kyrie Irving, one of the guys that they bankrolled their season on, is hurt again.
Well, you said in the beginning that he is not the healthiest person to have on the team.
He has a hard time staying on the floor. You know he's never played 80 games in a season.
And then when Kevin Durant comes back next year, you don't know who you're getting. You don't know which Kevin Durant you're getting.
The Nets better hope that he doesn't re-tear his Achilles tendon or that he stays on the floor for at least 75 games next season, because if he gets hurt again, all bets truly are off.
I mean, it's not the great disaster of getting together with Garnett, you know, and that's not a great disaster because they only signed him for 3 years. So, and they still have a good basketball team even without them.
Right now, the only teams to look at are the Bucks and the Lakers. The Bucks are outstanding.
What about the Clippers?
The Clippers have played very good basketball this season. At least they've had their two main guys, Paul George and the other kid, on the floor for the majority of the season. And they have a really good cast of characters, really strong cast of role players that can get them through. I just don't think that they're better than the Lakers.
Yeah, no, because you know you have. I mean, most of the teams are on the western side, but is anybody on the eastern side that we should be happy about? Because the Boston Celtics aren't doing anything.
The Celtics are up and down this season. They've got some great young players. The Pistons suck. Sorry, but the Pistons are awful. Right now, it's just the Bucks, the Heat, the Celtics, the Sixers, and also the Indiana Pacers. Those are the only 5 teams in the Eastern Conference that are over 500 right now. Everyone else is mediocre or putrid. So with that said, I'm going to say thank you to Kenny Graham on the other side of the glass. And thanks to you, Hector, for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And don't forget to check out the Home Invaders Rice show on Channel 34 on Sundays, 11 p.m. And we'll talk soon.
All righty. For everybody here, I'm Jamie.
I'm Hector.
Good night, everyone.
Night, night.